Hello and welcome to this instalment of Into the Unknown. There are two abduction cases that even those mildly interested in the study of the UFO alien phenomena will certainly know about. One is the Antonio Villas-Boas alien abduction case of 1957 in Brazil, and the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case of 1961 in the United States. But there's another case that's not often heard of that harks back 3 years earlier than that of the Villas-Boas case. The remarkable thing about this story is that it was almost an alien that was kidnapped by an earthling who tried to detain him and carry him to a pickup truck. This strange incident took place in Petare in Venezuela. On November the 29th, 1954, between 2 and 2:30am, Gustavo Gonzalez, a 25-year-old Cuban businessman living in Venezuela, and his Venezuelan helper, Jose Ponce, were travelling in Gustavo's pickup truck on their way to buy products at the Shepherd Butcher's Wholesaler located in Bella Vista Street in the city of Petare, so they could sell the products on the open market at daybreak. Whilst driving through Bella Vista Street, the street suddenly lit up as though it was daytime. Needless to say, this came as quite a surprise to the two gentlemen. When they exited the pickup truck to see what was happening, Jose suddenly ran back to the truck after seeing a strange being approaching them from the direction of a spherical object that had appeared near the truck. Seconds later, Gustavo also saw the being and hesitated at first, but then bravely advanced towards it. He then wrapped his arms around its body in an attempt to capture it and to carry it to the pickup truck. Gustavo thought the creature weighed something like 50 kilograms, that's around 110 pounds in English money. Although small, the creature was quite strong and quickly broke Gustavo's grip. As the creature got loose, Gustavo fell onto the pavement but managed to get up fast to once again go after the small creature. Whilst following the little alien, he then noticed something even more surprising and possibly disturbing. Two more little aliens were now heading towards him, seemingly to help their little friend. One of the newcomers then shone a flashlight-type device at him. The light blinded him for a few seconds, disorientating him and kept him from seeing what was happening. And shortly after regaining his senses, he grabbed his Boy Scout knife and thrust the knife onto the first alien's shoulder. To his surprise, instead of penetrating the skin, the knife slipped over it. The alien then tried to grab him. It was then that he noticed that each of the alien's 4 fingers had a sharp claw at the end of it. Whilst all this was going on, his assistant, Jose Ponce, got out of the pickup truck's right side door and headed towards the spherical object, when suddenly, to their right hand side, there emerged a small hairy alien, climbing a steep hill in a hurry and carrying lots of soil in both hands. When the small creature saw Jose Ponce heading towards him, it jumped about 6 feet, clambering into the spherical object via a small window, and then it disappeared inside. Seconds later, it stuck its head back out of the window with another being alongside it that was armed with a long shiny tube. This was held in both hands and it was pointed at both men. At that moment, they suddenly felt a vibration going through their bodies, paralysing both Gustavo and Jose. Then they observed the bright sphere rise silently to a point high in the dark sky. Then it disappeared. Jose Ponce ran and reached the Petare Traffic Inspectorate office located on the same street where the strange event occurred. Shortly after, Gustavo Gonzalez arrived, and after drinking some water and recuperating from the ordeal, the pair of them excitedly related what had happened to them to the law enforcement officers that were on duty. Manuel Moreno and E. Dominguez claimed that both men entered the office within the traffic inspectorate at around 2:30 in the morning, with that story what was told, and they were not drunk or insane. What they told them, they said, was astonishing, and it was so full of details that it must have been real. Gustavo Gonzalez and his friend Jose Ponce were both able to describe the aliens. The one that Gustavo grabbed was hairy. It didn't have a nose, it had shiny eyes, was short in stature, barefooted, and wore a very strange garment, which looked very much like some kind of loincloth. It was very agile, strong for its size, and was able to break loose from his grasp as it was leaping like a cat. Later that morning, Officer Antonio Jesus Yanes said that whatever had happened to Gustavo and Jose was something extremely unique. Subsequently, Gustavo had a severe pain on his left side and was then taken to hospital for medical assistance. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the hospital, they took an x-ray to see if his ribs had been fractured during the altercation, but instead the x-ray revealed a muscular distension on that side of the body. After the incident, people who knew them personally stated that they had indeed had an extraordinary experience. The manager at the National Meats Industry, or SHEPA, Antonio Cerci, declared that he knew Gustavo and Jose from sight and had had business dealings with them. He stated that they were both serious people and workers who arrived on time daily at 2 in the morning to withdraw their products. He further acknowledged that he had no cause to complain about the pair and had never noticed anything abnormal about them. He further stated that if they say they saw something or had had contact with something out of the ordinary that had disturbed them, then he for one would believe them. There were other witnesses at the time. Other people testified they saw or heard something on Bella Vista Street. Among them is Miss Maria Antonietta Avellaneda, who stated that she was wide awake between 1 and 2 in the morning at the time of the incident and felt something like a detonation and a sibilant hiss, but she didn't pay too much attention to it because at the time she was giving medication to a sick child in the house. Similarly, Mr. Concepcion Garacan, who lived in Petare, indicated that a few hours before the incident he had seen flying over south of Petare a strange luminous craft that made no noise and that other people had seen it too. And later in the morning at 2 a.m, a blast was heard on Bella Vista Street and other areas of the Caracas Valley. Mr. Manuel Maria Soria, who lived on 31 Sucre Avenue, just 3 blocks from the place indicated by the witnesses of this landing, stated that while heading home at about 2:30 in the morning in a rental car, he suddenly noticed that a bright light was illuminating his vehicle, forcing him to stop momentarily. He suddenly heard something like a high-pitched whistling sound, piercing and unbearable. He sped off running at full speed and went home where he told his mother, Dona Juanita Soria, of what happened. The lady replied that she had heard something, but she believes that it was one of those planes purchased by the government that makes a lot of noise. Another referential witness was Dr. Julio Garces, a laboratory assistant at a Perez de Leon hospital in Petare, and he declared that just after 2 in the morning on Sunday, when passing by in his car near Bella Vista Street, he heard an awful cry of terror coming from a squeaky voice. He stopped to see what was happening but saw nothing. All he heard were screams and didn't know where they were coming from. In addition, Mrs. Elsa Dudestat of 9th Street in Los Palos Grandes, where she lived, said that she was in a garden at home when she saw a very bright light heading towards Petare. The light was very intense, and that it ascended in a dish-shaped form, changed in tonality and fulgurated for several minutes. Her son, Rodolfo Dudestat, corroborated the comments made by his mother and said, "The vision that we have had has given us much to think about since it happened at the same time as the incident in Petare. We didn't know the details of that case until we read the story in the papers." Miss Ursula Weed, a niece of Miss Elsa Dudestat, also had the opportunity to witness the strange phenomena. The neighbours of the urbanisation Los Coabos that lived along the old railway line leading to the city of Petare said that in the morning and at the time indicated they observed how a very bright light passed over their house, illuminating their bedrooms with very intense beams of light. Many abstained to give statements to the press to avoid being labelled crazy or being cited by the National Security, who has conducted an inquiry into this matter. Miss Avelino de Paso, who resided on Andres Bello Street, indicated that several police patrol units and the National Security came to the area imposing order in investigating the streets, houses and the land where the explosion was felt not far from where the bright light was seen. Francisco Leal, who lived on 7th Street, felt the blast like other residents of the sector. Several entire families found themselves outside their own homes frightened to death. All commented on the possibility of being some kind of weapon and indicating that according to statements given to the police it was a blue intense light which spread upward and everyone heard the strange noise. So what are we left with? It's definite that an awful lot of people witnessed something. It also appears that whatever people witnessed was similar and it was almost at the same time and location. However, apart from witness testimony, there's no evidence to support the claims of the witnesses. It may not be the most publicised of alien abduction attempts, but it's most certainly one that was well witnessed and indeed strange. I just wonder though what we'd be saying now though if Gustavo Gonzalez would have managed to put that creature into his truck and made that available as evidence.